The story begins on a sweltering afternoon in a small frontier town. The kind of place where the wooden sidewalks creak under every step, and the dust from the surrounding plains seems to cling to everything. The townsfolk move with a cautious rhythm, wary of strangers and prone to gossip, their eyes sharp and their judgments sharper. Jack, a young cowboy known for his solitary ways, rides into this scene. He is rugged, with sun-weathered skin, a lean frame, and eyes that reflect both. The harshness of frontier life and a latent compassion often hidden behind his quiet demeanor. Jack is a man who has learned to trust very few, preferring the company of his horse and the wide-open plains over that of people. As he passes the center of town, Jack notices a commotion outside the saloon, a gathering crowd forming around a young woman, Lila. She is the kind of woman whose presence commands attention, even in a harsh world. Her hair is dark and windswept, her dress dusty from travel, yet there is a dignity to her posture that contrasts sharply with the sneering, jeering townsfolk encircling her. They accuse her of scandalous behavior, whispering rumors of impropriety that have no foundation in truth. The accusations are loud enough for Jack to hear as he approaches, talk of betrayal, dishonor, and questions about her character. Lila stands her ground, her hands trembling slightly, not out of fear for herself alone, but for what these accusations could mean for her family's reputation and her own future in the town. Jack watches as the situation escalates. A group of rough men, emboldened by the crowd's murmurs, begins to harass her, taunting and shoving her as if the public shaming were a sport. Lila's face reddens with both anger and shame. She tries to speak, but the mob refuses to listen. It is a moment where the law of the town seems to hold no weight, replaced by the brutal judgments of men who thrive on control and fear. Jack, though normally a man of few words, feels an undeniable surge of protective instinct. He knows that if he does not act, the situation could turn violent, and the consequences for Lila could be dire given the frontier's unforgiving nature. Without hesitation, Jack dismounts and strides into the crowd. The wooden boards of the sidewalk creak under his boots, drawing the eyes of the townsfolk. His presence commands immediate attention. He steps between Lila and her aggressors, his hand resting lightly on the grip of his revolver, not yet drawn, but the gesture enough to signal he means business. The men sneer at him, initially dismissing him as just another cowboy, yet there is a confidence in his stance, a calm defiance that makes them pause. Jack's voice, firm and unwavering, cuts through the murmuring crowd. "Leave her alone! Now!" The effect is immediate. The aggressors, taken aback by his boldness and the intensity of his gaze, hesitate. They mutter insults under their breath but step back, unwilling to test the cowboy's patience. Lila, though still shaking, feels a surge of relief. She senses that this man is different, that he stands not for personal gain or bravado, but out of genuine concern for her well-being. The crowd, sensing the shift in power, quiets, watching with a mix of curiosity and caution. Jack's intervention does not end the town's judgment, but it establishes him as someone who will not let injustice go unchallenged, even when it does not concern him directly. In this tense atmosphere, Jack learns a crucial truth. In the frontier, honor and reputation are often matters of survival. Lila's plight is not simply about public perception. It could determine her future opportunities, her safety, and the respect she receives from her community. Jack's choice to intervene, to put himself in potential danger for the sake of another, marks the beginning of a story shaped by sacrifice, courage, and moral conviction. It also sets up the initial tension between the two main characters. Jack, the reluctant hero who values his solitude, and Lila, the courageous but vulnerable woman thrust into the harsh glare of judgment. The morning after the confrontation in the town square, the atmosphere remains tense. Jack, still unsettled by the sight of Lila's public humiliation, realizes that mere defense was not enough to protect her from ongoing scrutiny. The townsfolk are unforgiving, quick to whisper rumors that grow taller with each telling. Lila, though composed outwardly, is acutely aware that her reputation has been damaged in a society where appearances are everything. The thought of being ostracized or worse, physically threatened for something she didn't do weighs heavily on her. She wanders the town in silence, her eyes scanning the familiar streets that now feel hostile, knowing that the gossip will follow her wherever she goes. Jack watches from a distance, trying to calculate a solution. He knows that words alone will not stop the relentless murmurs and judgment. The town's rigid sense of propriety leaves little room for a woman's innocence to prevail. Jack's mind races as he considers what could permanently shield Lila from harm. The solution comes to him suddenly, clear and unyielding: marriage. Though the idea is unconventional and fraught with complications, Jack understands that by marrying Lila, he can protect her honor and, in turn, give her the safety she deserves. It is not a decision made lightly. He is aware of the weight it carries. This is a sacrifice he is willing to make, not for personal gain but for justice and compassion. The conversation between Jack and Lila is hesitant at first. He approaches her in the quiet of the early evening, when the town is at its calmest and fewer eyes are watching. Lila regards him with a mixture of suspicion and cautious hope. "Jack, what are you thinking?" she asks softly, her voice tinged with doubt. Jack explains his reasoning, speaking with the honesty and gravity that have always defined him. "If we don't do something, this won't end," he says. "I know a way to keep you safe. It's not ideal, but it's the best chance you have." Lila is conflicted. She understands the logic, yet her mind reels at the idea of marrying a man she barely knows. The thought of intimacy, of a bond, forged under circumstances of necessity rather than choice, fills her with unease. She asks questions, probing Jack's intentions, wanting assurance that this is not some selfish act. Jack's answers are measured, emphasizing protection and respect rather than romance. He makes it clear that he will honor her autonomy in every possible way, even within the framework of marriage. Despite her hesitation, Lila senses the sincerity in his words and recognizes that refusing could mean continued exposure to danger and disgrace. The decision is made with a mixture of apprehension and relief. The ceremony is simple, conducted with minimal fuss to avoid drawing unwanted attention. The local officiant murmurs through the vows while townsfolk observe discreetly, sensing the underlying tension. Jack and Lila exchange glances that are cautious but respectful. There is no immediate spark of love, only a quiet understanding that this act is one of necessity and protection. The union, though unconventional, symbolizes a bond formed in courage and principle rather than passion. Life immediately after the marriage is an adjustment for both. Lila must navigate the complexities of living with a man she barely knows, while Jack must balance his protective instincts with respect for her personal space. Their interactions are polite and measured, filled with small gestures of cooperation and shared responsibility. Lila begins to appreciate Jack's unwavering commitment to her safety, while Jack observes her resilience and intelligence with growing admiration. The initial tension between them gradually softens, replaced by a cautious, mutual respect that lays the foundation for deeper connection over time. Yet even in the relative safety of their arrangement, the shadow of societal judgment lingers. The townsfolk whisper about the marriage, speculating on the motives and the consequences. Some are skeptical of Jack's intentions, while others grudgingly admire his bravery. For Lila, the marriage is both shield and prison. It protects her from scandal, but it also confines her to a path she did not choose. She grapples with conflicting emotions, torn between gratitude for her safety and discomfort at the lack of personal agency. After the quiet, understated ceremony that bound Jack and Lila in marriage, the couple begins their life together on Jack's remote ranch. The ranch sits on the edge of the frontier, far from the town's prying eyes and judgments, surrounded by sweeping plains and rugged hills. While the landscape offers freedom and safety, it also presents isolation, a stark contrast to the crowded, gossiping streets of the town. For Lila, this seclusion is both a relief and a source of unease. Though she is protected from public scrutiny, she must now navigate life alongside a man she barely knows, in a place where the harshness of nature leaves no room for error or weakness. Jack's routine is a solitary one, honed over years of self-reliance. He rises with the sun, tending to the livestock, repairing fences, and patrolling the boundaries of the property. His days are long and physically demanding, shaped by the unforgiving rhythm of frontier life. Lila, accustomed to a more structured and socially interactive life in town, finds herself disoriented by the silence and vastness of the plains. She is aware of Jack's stoicism, his quiet competence, and the unspoken rules he lives by. In the beginning, she feels like an intruder, unsure how to assert herself without overstepping boundaries or seeming disrespectful. Their interactions are careful and deliberate. Jack is polite but reserved, offering guidance and support without imposing himself. Lila, in turn, treads lightly, learning the rhythms of the ranch and observing Jack's habits. Meals are often taken in silence, broken only by occasional instructions or questions about chores. Despite the initial distance, there is a subtle acknowledgement of mutual dependence. Jack needs her presence to fulfill the promise he made to protect her, and Lila needs Jack's strength and knowledge to navigate the challenges of frontier life. Over time, small gestures begin to bridge the gap between them. Lila learns to handle a horse, to manage the daily tasks of the ranch, and to read the land in ways she never imagined. Jack, recognizing her intelligence and adaptability, begins to trust her with responsibilities, allowing her a measure of autonomy. These shared experiences create an unspoken bond, a quiet understanding that grows from necessity into mutual respect. Though love is not yet present in the romantic sense, the foundation of partnership is forming, built on competence, reliability, and shared struggle. The isolation of the ranch brings both challenges and insights. Lila occasionally struggles with the loneliness, longing for the connection and social interaction she left behind. Jack, while accustomed to solitude, begins to notice the absence of companionship in a more acute way, realizing that protection alone does not satisfy the human need for connection. Their conversations, initially practical and task-focused, gradually expand to reflections on life, values, and dreams. They begin to share stories of their pasts, small fragments of vulnerability that hint at deeper emotional landscapes. In these moments, they glimpse each other's true character, moving beyond surface impressions and societal roles. Life on the ranch is also marked by the harsh realities of the frontier. Storms sweep across the plains, threatening livestock and crops. Predators lurk near the edges of their property, and scarcity of resources is a constant challenge. Jack demonstrates his skill and bravery in confronting these dangers, while Lila learns resilience and courage under his guidance. Each challenge they face together strengthens their bond, even if it remains unspoken. They start to recognize that survival in this environment requires trust, cooperation, and respect, qualities that will serve as the backbone of their relationship in the years to come. Despite their growing connection, tension remains. Lila struggles with the sense that her life is not entirely her own, constrained by the marriage arranged out of necessity. Jack, on his part, wrestles with his own reservations about emotional attachment, wary of the vulnerability that intimacy could bring. Yet both begin to understand that the circumstances that brought them together, sacrifice, protection, and moral duty, also provide an opportunity to build something meaningful. The isolation that initially felt like a cage slowly transforms into a crucible for growth, teaching them patience, understanding, and the quiet power of shared experience. As the days turn into months on the remote ranch, Jack and Lila settle into a rhythm of life dictated by the harsh realities of the frontier. The vast, open plains that once intimidated Lila now serve as a classroom in resilience and adaptability, where every sunrise brings new challenges. Life on the frontier is unforgiving, weather shifts abruptly, predators roam unchecked, and resources are always limited. Jack, with his years of experience, knows how to navigate these dangers, but even he cannot control every variable the land throws at them. Lila, though initially inexperienced, begins to learn the importance of observation, quick thinking, and endurance. The trials they face together will test not only their survival skills, but also the subtle dynamics of their growing relationship. The first true test comes in the form of a sudden storm. One afternoon, dark clouds gather on the horizon, rolling in faster than either of them anticipates. The wind begins to howl across the plains, rattling the wooden fences and whipping up the dust into blinding clouds. Jack immediately takes command, instructing Lila to secure the livestock in the barn while he reinforces the weaker fences. Lila moves quickly, her hands shaking from a mix of fear and adrenaline, but she does not falter. She follows Jack's instructions with precision, learning to trust his experience while discovering her own capacity to act under pressure. In these moments, the gap between them narrows, replaced by mutual reliance and the silent acknowledgement of each other's strengths. Predators, too, present constant danger. Wolves, drawn by hunger and the scent of livestock, often approach the ranch under the cover of night. One evening, as the couple sits near the fire after a long day's work, a howl echoes through the darkness, sending a shiver down Lila's spine. Jack grabs his rifle, motioning for her to stay back, but Lila insists on helping, finding ways to assist him, keeping watch, moving quietly, and learning the patterns of the creatures around them. Through these encounters, Lila's confidence grows, and Jack begins to see her not as a protected ward but as a capable partner. Their trust deepens, built not on words, but on shared experience and the unspoken understanding that each can depend on the other in moments of peril. Scarcity of resources further tests their adaptability. Water is often limited, and the soil is unforgiving for crops. Jack teaches Lila how to conserve, how to read the land for signs of moisture, and how to rotate grazing areas for the livestock. Lila, initially hesitant, embraces the lessons, finding satisfaction in her growing competence. She begins to take initiative, suggesting new ways to optimize their routines, which surprises Jack. He appreciates her intelligence and resourcefulness, recognizing that her contributions are essential to their survival. These moments, though, mundane in comparison to the more dramatic dangers, solidify the practical partnership that underpins their relationship. Amid these trials, moments of quiet reflection occur. On nights when the storm passes and the sky is clear, Jack and Lila sit outside, listening to the wind rustle through the grass. They speak of their pasts, their losses, and their dreams in fragmented conversations that reveal vulnerability and humanity. Lila opens up about her fears, the judgment she endured, and the freedom she yearns for despite the protection the marriage offers. Jack, in turn, shares his own struggles with solitude and his understanding of the harsh world around them. These exchanges, though brief and sporadic, sow seeds of emotional connection. They begin to recognize that their bond extends beyond survival. It is rooted in respect, empathy, and the shared experience of enduring hardship. Social isolation compounds the trials of the frontier. With the town miles away, interaction with others is rare. Letters from family are infrequent, and news of the outside world travels slowly. Lila occasionally struggles with loneliness, but Jack's presence, initially a source of tension, becomes a stabilizing factor. He is patient and observant, allowing her space while offering guidance when necessary. The boundaries of their marriage, once defined by necessity, gradually evolve into a framework of cooperation, mutual respect, and subtle interdependence. Months pass on the rugged frontier, and the rhythm of life on Jack's ranch begins to settle into a difficult but familiar routine. Jack and Lila, initially bound by necessity, have endured storms, predators, and scarcity, and with each challenge, the tension that once defined their relationship softens into a subtle, unspoken understanding. Though romance is not yet present, a silent bond begins to form, built on mutual respect, shared labor, and the recognition of each other's character and resilience. This bond, quiet and steady, becomes the foundation upon which deeper emotions may eventually grow. The bond emerges first through observation and shared competence. Jack notices Lila's growing skill in handling the livestock and managing the land. Her hands, once hesitant and delicate, now move with confidence and precision. As she reins in horses, mends fences, and tends the small garden that sustains them, Jack sees not just her capability, but her determination, her ability to adapt, and her willingness to learn from him without complaint. He begins to include her in decisions that once he would have made alone, seeking her input on matters ranging from which animals to prioritize for grazing to how best to reinforce the barn against the coming winter. Each shared decision, each acknowledgement of her insight strengthens their connection. Lila begins to recognize that Jack respects her mind as much as her presence, and in turn, her trust in him deepens. Conversely, Lila observes Jack's steadfastness and quiet courage. She watches as he faces threats from nature with unwavering focus, as he navigates the solitude with a calm and deliberate rhythm. Even in silence, Jack communicates lessons of patience, vigilance, and endurance, teaching Lila that survival is not only about strength, but about wisdom and perseverance. She begins to anticipate his needs, to act in harmony with his routines, and to offer small gestures that ease his burdens, like preparing meals ahead of time or tending to minor repairs before he notices. These acts of consideration, performed without expectation of recognition, become the currency of their growing intimacy. Their communication, though often sparse, becomes layered with subtlety. A glance across the yard can convey understanding. A hand, placed briefly on a shoulder, can offer reassurance. In moments of shared labor, they move in silent coordination, each knowing what the other needs without words. These small exchanges, almost imperceptible to an outsider, reinforce a sense of partnership that is both practical and emotional. Lila begins to feel a quiet comfort in Jack's presence, a sense that she is no longer entirely vulnerable in this harsh, unforgiving land. Jack, in turn, feels a growing admiration for her resilience and ingenuity, and a protective impulse that goes beyond mere obligation. The solitude of the ranch further cultivates this silent bond. With little distraction from the outside world, Jack and Lila spend long stretches together, where the absence of external noise allows them to focus on each other's presence. During evenings by the fire, they share stories in fragments, memories of childhood, fleeting thoughts about family, and reflections on the hardships they have endured. These conversations, though not always intimate in nature, reveal glimpses of personality, values, and fears, building a foundation of empathy. Lila begins to see Jack not just as a protector, but as a person shaped by experience, capable of depth and deserving of trust. Jack sees in Lila a strength tempered by vulnerability, a courage that shines brightest when faced with adversity. Small shared victories continue to strengthen their connection. Successfully navigating a storm, tending the herd without loss, or harvesting a meager crop fosters pride and mutual acknowledgement. In these moments, they begin to celebrate together, exchanging quiet smiles or brief touches that signal more than words could express. The bond between them, still unspoken, is palpable, a combination of admiration, trust, and emerging emotional dependence that neither can ignore. Life on the frontier, though slowly settling into a rhythm for Jack and Lila, is never free from danger. The calm that had begun to define their daily routine is suddenly shattered one late afternoon when a distant cloud of dust appears on the horizon. At first, it seems like the usual passing riders or traveling merchants, but as the dust grows thicker and the sound of hooves louder, Jack recognizes the unmistakable threat of a rival gang that has been rumored to roam the plains, preying on isolated homesteads. He senses immediately that their peaceful life, precarious as it is under serious threat. Jack's reaction is swift and decisive. He motions for Lila to move to a safe position in the house, while he gathers his rifle and assesses the situation from the ridge overlooking the ranch. Every decision he makes reflects years of experience surviving in a harsh and lawless land. Lila, though alarmed, does not panic. Instead, she instinctively follows Jack's instructions, securing doors and windows, gathering supplies, and ensuring the animals are as protected as possible. In these moments, the years of training, labor, and trust that have shaped their bond manifest in perfect synchrony. Lila's confidence in Jack's judgment is evident, and Jack's confidence in her capabilities is equally clear. As the gang approaches, Jack confronts them head-on. Standing in the open field, he projects calm authority, his posture steady, his eyes unwavering. The intruders, expecting an easy target, are caught off guard by his courage and preparedness. Shots are exchanged, though Jack uses precision and strategy rather than recklessness, aiming to protect rather than to kill unnecessarily. Lila, from the safety of the house, watches with mounting anxiety but also growing admiration for Jack's bravery. She sees in him not just a protector, but a man of principle, willing to put himself in harm's way to preserve the lives and safety of others. The confrontation lasts only a short while, but it is intense. Jack uses the terrain to his advantage, maneuvering strategically and exploiting the natural obstacles around the ranch. Lila assists where she can, fetching extra ammunition, keeping watch, and offering guidance based on observations from the house. Together, they become a team, each playing a role that maximizes their chances of survival. The experience solidifies their bond, demonstrating that their partnership is not merely symbolic, but grounded in real-world necessity, courage, and mutual reliance. When the threat finally passes, leaving the gang retreating into the distance, a sense of relief washes over both of them. The ranch remains intact, their lives unharmed, and their bond strengthened. For Lila, witnessing Jack's bravery firsthand is transformative. She realizes that the man who once seemed distant and solitary is capable of extraordinary courage and moral strength. Her admiration deepens into something more profound than respect. It is a recognition of his character and his unwavering dedication to protecting those he cares about. Jack, in turn, feels a mixture of pride and gratitude. He acknowledges Lila's composure, resourcefulness, and courage during the ordeal, understanding that she is no longer just a passive participant in his life, but an active partner. Their shared experience of danger fosters emotional closeness, a recognition that they rely on each other not only for survival, but for emotional support and resilience. In the aftermath, moments of quiet conversation and reflection allow them to process the event together, their dialogue marked by newfound trust and understanding. This sudden threat also forces both of them to confront deeper truths. Jack realizes that his protective instincts have grown into genuine care and emotional attachment, feelings that extend beyond the obligations of marriage. Lila likewise acknowledges that the safety he provides has been accompanied by patience, respect, and an evolving emotional connection. The crisis serves as a catalyst, highlighting the depth of their bond and preparing the ground for a more profound relationship that will continue to develop in the face of future challenges. The peace that followed the sudden threat on the ranch is short-lived. Life on the frontier is never static, and circumstances soon conspire to separate Jack and Lila, testing the resilience of the bond they have forged. The catalyst for Lila's departure comes in the form of a summons from her family, whose own circumstances require her presence elsewhere. Perhaps there is an unresolved family feud, a land dispute, or a threat to her community that only she can address. Whatever the reason, the call is urgent, leaving her little choice but to leave the safety of the ranch and the protection Jack provides. The news comes as a shock to both of them, stirring emotions they have only begun to acknowledge. Lila struggles with the decision. She feels a profound sense of duty to her family and community, but she is acutely aware of the personal sacrifice involved. Leaving Jack is not just leaving a protector or a companion, it is stepping away from a life that, despite its difficulties, has offered her safety, respect, and the beginnings of emotional connection. The thought of abandonment, of stepping back into a world where judgment and danger lurk, weighs heavily on her. Yet she knows that courage is not only about surviving immediate threats. It is also about acting for the greater good, even when it means personal hardship. Jack, for his part, experiences a complex swirl of emotions. He understands the necessity of her departure, recognizing her loyalty to family and the responsibilities that extend beyond the confines of his ranch. Yet he cannot deny the deep sense of loss that accompanies her leaving. The quiet companionship they have nurtured, the trust, respect, and emerging affection all face a sudden test. Jack's solitude, once familiar and manageable, now feels heavier and more acute. He realizes how much Lila's presence has come to mean to him, not just as a companion in labor or survival, but as someone whose character and spirit have begun to touch him deeply. The departure itself is poignant and understated. There is no dramatic farewell, no final words of love, only a quiet recognition of the necessity that separates them. Lila packs her belongings, securing the essentials for travel, while Jack helps as best he can, offering practical guidance and a steadying presence. Their interactions are marked by unspoken emotion. A hand held a moment longer than necessary, a glance that conveys both regret and hope, and the weight of words that remain unsaid. The bond they share, though tested by distance, is clearly visible in their mutual care and concern. As Lila rides away, Jack watches from the ridge overlooking the ranch, the dust from her departure lingering in the air like a reminder of her absence. The silence that follows is profound, filled with reflection and the first true encounter with the depth of his feelings for her. He acknowledges the sacrifices he has made for her safety and well-being, and now he confronts the emotional cost of their separation. The solitude that once offered him freedom now brings introspection and longing, compelling him to evaluate what he values most in life. Meanwhile, Lila confronts her own challenges on the journey. Travel across the frontier is fraught with danger. Bandits, wild animals, harsh weather, and the unforgiving terrain test her resilience at every step. Yet she draws strength from the skills and confidence Jack helped cultivate. She navigates the journey not as a helpless woman fleeing danger, but as someone equipped with knowledge, resourcefulness, and courage. The lessons learned on the ranch, the value of preparation, patience, and vigilance serve her well, reinforcing the bond between her and Jack even in his absence. During this period of separation, both begin to reflect on the significance of their time together. Lila recognizes that Jack's protection was accompanied by respect, patience, and emotional depth, while Jack realizes that his care for her has grown into genuine attachment. Distance sharpens their awareness of each other's importance, highlighting the strength of the silent bond they had begun to form. Letters may be exchanged, or messages carried by travelers, serving as fragile threads maintaining their connection across miles of wilderness. Months and then years pass after Lila's departure, leaving Jack alone on the ranch. Life continues with the same rhythm of labor and survival, but something essential is missing: the quiet companionship and growing emotional connection he once shared with Lila. The frontier, with all its beauty and harshness, feels lonelier without her presence. Jack immerses himself in the daily work, repairing fences, tending livestock, and maintaining the homestead, yet the emptiness of solitude presses on him in ways that physical labor cannot ease. He often finds his thoughts drifting to Lila, recalling her resilience, intelligence, and courage, along with the moments of silent understanding they once shared. It is during one of these quiet moments that Jack receives word from the outside world, news carried by a traveler passing through the plains. Lila has risen in prominence among her people, assuming a position of leadership that commands respect and authority. Stories reach Jack of her accomplishments, her strategic mind, and her courage in defending her community from threats both internal and external. She is no longer the young, vulnerable woman who left the ranch. She has grown into a formidable figure whose influence and presence extend far beyond what Jack had imagined. The news strikes him with a mix of awe, pride, and a tinge of fear. Jack's reaction is complex. He feels pride that Lila has thrived, yet he cannot deny the pang of longing that accompanies the realization of her absence. The woman he protected, the companion with whom he forged a silent bond, has not only survived, but flourished. He begins to reflect on the years they spent together, the trials they faced, and the subtle evolution of their relationship. Every memory, from shared labor to quiet moments of conversation and unspoken understanding, resurfaces with clarity. The awareness of her growth and independence amplifies his respect for her, yet it also awakens an unresolved hope, the possibility that their paths might cross again. As Jack contemplates the news, he begins to prepare for the eventuality of Lila's return. He repairs the ranch, ensuring that it is secure and ready to withstand any challenges, reflecting both a practical concern and a subconscious desire to present stability and strength upon her arrival. His actions are deliberate, but tinged with anticipation. Every improvement and precaution carries the unspoken acknowledgement that the frontier they share has the potential to reunite them. The memory of their shared past and the silent bond they cultivated acts as a guiding force, shaping his decisions and reinforcing his emotional connection to her despite the distance and time apart. Meanwhile, the news of Lila's rise spreads, hinting at her intentions to reconnect with her past and the man who once sacrificed so much for her safety. She has not forgotten the protection and respect Jack afforded her, nor the lessons he imparted during their years together on the ranch. Her leadership has taught her strategy, patience, and negotiation, but she also carries a deep emotional understanding of Jack's character, forged in shared adversity and quiet companionship. The anticipation of returning to the ranch is tempered by the uncertainty of how he will respond and how the years of separation may have changed him. The call of the past, both figuratively and literally, serves as a catalyst for reflection and preparation. Jack and Lila, though separated by miles and time, are brought into alignment by circumstance and memory. The story emphasizes the endurance of their bond, the ways in which respect, trust, and unspoken understanding can persist across distance and years. Jack's anticipation, mingled with apprehension, underscores the stakes of their eventual reunion. It is not merely a physical return, but a meeting of two lives shaped by shared history, sacrifice, and emotional growth. By the end of Part 8, the reader understands that the stage is set for a dramatic and emotional reunion. Jack has grown in solitude, reflecting on his feelings, honing his skills, and preparing for the return of someone who has become central to his life. Lila, empowered and respected as a leader, approaches the frontier not as a passive participant, but as an active force capable of influencing her destiny and acknowledging the debt of gratitude she feels toward Jack. The narrative tension heightens, building anticipation for the climactic arrival of Lila and the 200 warriors who accompany her, a symbolic and literal manifestation of the respect, loyalty, and emotional weight that their shared history commands. The long-awaited moment arrives on a horizon bathed in the golden hues of late afternoon. Jack, working near the barn, senses an unusual stillness in the air. The wind shifts, carrying the distant but unmistakable sound of galloping hooves. At first, he hesitates, unsure whether it is a routine traveler or something more significant. Then, through the shimmering dust, he sees them, a mounted group advancing with precision, their numbers far exceeding anything he has ever faced on the plains. 200 warriors, disciplined and commanding, move as one toward the ranch, and at the center, unmistakable even from a distance, rides Lila. She is no longer the young, uncertain woman who left years ago. She exudes authority, confidence, and determination, the product of years of leadership and growth. Jack freezes, a mixture of awe and apprehension coursing through him. The sight of Lila leading such a formidable force is both inspiring and intimidating. The warrior's presence signifies not just loyalty to her, but recognition of Jack's past actions, the courage and sacrifice he displayed to protect Lila from harm. The enormity of the moment strikes him. This is not merely a personal reunion, but a powerful acknowledgement of honor and respect on a grand scale. The weight of time, sacrifice, and shared history converges in this single dramatic arrival, Alei. The warriors approach. Jack's instinct is to prepare defensively, though he quickly realizes that aggression is unnecessary. There is no malice in their movements. Instead, there is a sense of purpose, order, and reverence. Lila's eyes meet Jack's across the distance, and in that gaze, the years of separation, the silent bond, and the unspoken emotions are reflected. Jack feels a rush of emotion, relief, admiration, and the stirrings of affection that had quietly grown over the years. Lila signals to her warriors to halt at a respectful distance, emphasizing that the moment is personal, symbolic, and sacred. The interaction between Jack and Lila is brief but charged with meaning. She approaches on horseback, her posture regal. Her eyes steady and unwavering. Words are unnecessary at first. The weight of their shared past, the sacrifices made, and the endurance of trust and respect speak volumes. When she finally dismounts, the gestures are deliberate and careful, honoring both the emotional gravity of the moment and the respect due to Jack. There is a pause, a suspended silence, where both recognize the journey they have endured, the trials they survived, and the strength of the bond that endured across distance and time. Lila's speech, when it comes, is measured and powerful. She acknowledges Jack's bravery, his sacrifice, and the protection he provided when she was vulnerable. Her words resonate with the authority of a leader, but are infused with personal gratitude and genuine respect. The warriors, standing in formation, witness this exchange as both a lesson in honor and a tribute to courage. Jack listens, emotions welling, as he realizes that the impact of his actions extended far beyond the immediate circumstances. He has earned not only Lila's respect, but also the loyalty of an entire community. The reunion is also an emotional reckoning. Jack reflects on the years of solitude, the moments of longing, and the trials they faced together. He recognizes the depth of his feelings, now illuminated by Lila's return and the visible manifestation of her gratitude and authority. Lila, in turn, acknowledges the courage and moral integrity that have always defined Jack. seeing in him a man worthy of admiration, trust, and perhaps love. The moment transcends a mere reunion. It is a convergence of personal growth, loyalty, and emotional fulfillment. The warriors' presence underscores the broader significance of the reunion. They are not just a backdrop. They represent the collective, acknowledgement of Jack's past sacrifice and the influence of Lila's leadership. Their disciplined formation and attentive observation highlight the respect that binds communities, honor, and history together. For Jack, the sight is overwhelming, a testament to the enduring power of courage, protection, and ethical action in a world often harsh and unforgiving. The climactic moment of Jack and Lila's story begins as the dust settles from the arrival of the 200 warriors. The sun dips low on the horizon, casting a golden glow across the plains, as if nature itself is honoring the convergence of past sacrifices, loyalty, and unspoken emotion. Jack stands at the center of the ranch, surrounded by the hushed formation of warriors, their presence amplifying the gravity of the moment. Lila approaches him, her strides confident, her expression calm yet charged with emotion. The years of separation, hardship, and growth culminate in this single meeting, where silence conveys more than words ever could. Lila dismounts and closes the remaining distance between them. In her eyes, Jack sees the same determination and courage he remembered, now combined with the authority of a leader who has earned respect far beyond the ranch. Her presence is commanding, yet there is tenderness in the way she regards him, a recognition of the sacrifices he made, the protection he provided, and the moral integrity he displayed when others would have faltered. The shared history of their trials and silent partnership floods the moment with unspoken understanding. Words are scarce, but deliberate. Lila expresses her gratitude for the life Jack safeguarded and the dignity he preserved when the town and circumstances offered her no protection. Her voice carries authority, yet beneath it lies warmth, respect, and the hint of a personal bond that has matured through distance and reflection. She acknowledges the quiet heroism that defined Jack's actions, not only for her, but for the values they both hold dear: courage, integrity, and honor. Each word resonates not only with him, but with the assembled warriors, who bear witness to the moral and emotional significance of this reunion. Jack, in turn, finds himself confronted with the depth of his feelings, long subdued during years of solitude and survival. He recognizes that his commitment to Lila went far beyond obligation or duty. It was rooted in genuine care, admiration, and emerging love. The sight of her as a powerful leader, commanding loyalty and respect, crystallizes the realization that she has grown into a woman of extraordinary strength, yet one who still shares the bond forged through shared adversity. His response, measured but heartfelt, conveys acknowledgement of her achievements, pride in her growth, and the profound connection that has endured across time and distance. The presence of the 200 warriors elevates the moment from a personal reunion to a ceremonial acknowledgement of honor and loyalty. They are not mere spectators. Their disciplined formation and attentive stance serve as a living testament to the impact of Jack's past sacrifices. Their respect is both for Lila, now a commanding leader, and for Jack, the man whose courage and ethical action have earned enduring admiration. The scene becomes a symbolic convergence of personal and communal honor, demonstrating that the consequences of bravery and integrity resonate far beyond immediate circumstances. As the tension of the reunion gives way to recognition, Jack and Lila share a quiet, private exchange that transcends words. A touch of the hand, a lingering glance, and a shared smile communicate emotions that have grown silently over years. Trust, respect, gratitude, and the beginnings of love that has quietly matured in parallel with their personal growth. The warriors, sensing the authenticity of the moment, maintain their respectful distance, allowing the reunion to remain personal while simultaneously acknowledging its significance in a broader social and cultural context. The climax also emphasizes transformation. Jack, who began as a solitary cowboy, has learned to open himself to emotional vulnerability and connection through his protective actions and partnership with Lila. Lila, who once faced vulnerability and societal judgment, has grown into a leader of strength, courage, and influence. Yet she honors the man who helped shape her journey. Their reunion symbolizes the culmination of personal growth, ethical courage, and emotional maturity, a convergence of past, present, and future potential.